Probably using one of three AI chatbots right now: ChatGPT, Claude, or Google's Gemini. But here's what most people don't realize: they're not actually competitors in the way you think. They're solving different problems under the hood. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one is actually built for what you need. I'm going to show you the architecture differences that explain everything: why Claude won't hallucinate quite as much, why ChatGPT is faster, and why Gemini is secretly the most ambitious of the three. Let's dig in. First, the thing nobody explains clearly. These aren't just different versions of the same thing. They're built on completely different training philosophies. Think of it like this: ChatGPT is a speedrunner. Claude is a perfectionist. Gemini is trying to do everything at once. OpenAI built ChatGPT to be the first mover. They optimized for one thing above everything else: scale. They took a huge amount of text from the internet, threw it at a model, and trained it to predict what word comes next really well. It's called a transformer model, and it's essentially a statistical machine that learned patterns from billions of examples. The key thing: they made it available to everyone immediately. That matters because the more people used it, the more data OpenAI got back about where it failed. That feedback loop is how they've kept improving it. Now Claude. Anthropic built Claude starting from a completely different question: how do we make an AI that's actually aligned with human values? They use something called constitutional AI. Basically, they gave the model a set of principles, kind of like a constitution, and trained it to follow those principles while generating text. It's slower to train, it's slower to run, but it's designed to be more cautious. That's why Claude tends to refuse requests more often, and why it hallucinates less. It's literally trained to be skeptical. When it doesn't know something, it says so instead of confidently making something up. And that comes from the architecture, not just the training data. Here's the thing, though: that caution comes with a trade-off. Claude is more conservative. Sometimes it refuses things it could actually do. Some people see that as a feature. Others see it as a limitation. Google's Gemini is the interesting outlier here. They didn't just train it on text. Gemini was built to understand text, images, video, audio, and code all at the same time from the ground up. That's genuinely different. ChatGPT's image understanding came later, bolted on after the fact. Claude's the same story. But Gemini was designed to process multiple types of information together, the way humans actually think about the world. The problem? That ambition makes it harder to optimize. Gemini is slower than ChatGPT on pure text tasks. But it's genuinely better if you're mixing images and text together, or asking it to analyze a video. It's also the newest approach, which means Google's still figuring out what they built. So what actually matters? Three specific things: hallucination, speed, and what they're trained to refuse. ChatGPT hallucinates the most. It's confident when it's wrong. Claude hallucinates less. It's more likely to say, "I'm not sure." Gemini's somewhere in the middle, but it varies a lot depending on which version you're using. Speed? ChatGPT wins. It's optimized for latency, the time between you hitting enter and getting an answer. Claude is slower but more thoughtful. Gemini's variable depending on the complexity of what you're processing. And refusals? Claude refuses the most things, even things that are harmless. ChatGPT's more permissive. Gemini's somewhere in between, but Google's still adjusting the settings. Here's the number that actually changes everything: tokens. These are basically chunks of text, roughly 4 characters per token. ChatGPT's got a context window of about 128,000 tokens. Claude maxes out at 200,000. Gemini tops out at 1 million. What does that mean? It means Claude and Gemini can remember way more of a long document or conversation than ChatGPT can. That's why Claude's actually better if you're working with long research papers or entire code bases. That's an architecture choice. It requires more computing power. But it's real. Okay, so practically speaking, use ChatGPT if you want speed and you don't mind a slightly less cautious AI. Use Claude if you're working with long documents or if hallucinations drive you crazy. Use Gemini if you're mixing images and text together, or if you're a Google Workspace user. Most people should probably try all three. They're free or cheap to test. The differences only matter for specific use cases. Here's what you should remember. They're different because they were built differently. Not better or worse. Different. And that difference comes from choices made in the architecture layer, the stuff you can't see. If you want to try any of the tools mentioned in this video, I've linked everything in the description below. You can test them all for free and see which one actually fits how your brain works. What do you use? Comment below and let me know which one you're actually betting on. And if this explanation clicked for you, subscribe. We do this every week. Thanks for watching.